Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, 1. The FantasyFootballTips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliano.
Hi, you're listening to FantasyFootballTips.co, the podcast in association with Premier Punt, the home of daily fantasy football betting. This is game week 31, and Quigliano, I can tell we're back in the studio today. There was no need for that.
Need for what? Explain.
During my introduction there, he's literally biting at my ear. I know you love an earlobe, Quigliano, but that's just taking it too far. Not in the podcast, please.
What entertains me is that you might have noticed this over the weeks, that Mills almost starts every introduction like as though he's kind of laughing. So it'll be like, "Hi, welcome back to FP." That, and for some, we were like really quiet and really down, and then you just fake it.
Well, I just like to bring the atmosphere up. I actually thought we had quite a nice pre-podcast discussion there, but and it's welcome back to JP, who has missed the last 2 podcast episodes.
Tips didn't do too well last week, mate.
No.
It is wonderful to be back.
Villa weren't great last week.
Why you chose to tip Les Scott and Micah Richards, I have no idea.
Yeah, don't know, but it's fantastic to be back. Missed it. Apologies to the fans for being away, but I'm back now.
And how are the sort of relations over in North Wales?
Fantastic, really good. Yeah, we've had a good time. Relations have built, they've grown. You know, we're onwards and upwards, Mills. We really are.
Fantastic. Okay. I mean, he's glad to have this boy back. I am glad to have this boy back.
No, it is good. We all need a whipping boy, and JP
And I am that whipping boy.
plays it well.
He certainly does. So game week 30 just gone. The depleted fixture list. We only had 10 Premier League teams playing in that. How did that work out for you, gentlemen?
Well, actually, it was interesting. Many managers that I know actually got quite good points on it. A very good captain choice from a lot of people with Harry Kane.
Well, speaking of that, Mills, you sort of were blowing your own trumpet a minute ago, saying that you tipped him when Quigliano. Bad shout for you, because I went Aguero.
Anyone that listened to the podcast extra last week, I did tip Kane as my captain choice.
Okay.
I emailed it out to all of our members, all of our email subscribers on Saturday morning.
You backed that yourself as well.
In our little WhatsApp group, we all do our screenshots, don't we? And after the deadline, we all share our screenshots. As I went to share my screenshot, I was horrified to see that I had left Aguero as captain, which is an absolute. It is the definition of schoolboy error.
Yeah.
Rookie.
In my head,
Rookie.
I had captained Kane. I was all over Harry Kane. I couldn't have been more pro Harry Kane.
It sounds a bit fictional at times. There's another member of that group who often lies. It'll be like, Dele Alli will get 2 assists. Oh, I was going to put Ali in this week.
But that's fair enough.
I'm sorry, I'm talking. Firmino will score a couple of goals. Oh, I was going to put him in this week, but then didn't bother.
That's fair enough, but they're saying...
still not finished.
Go on, Quigliano.
And it's kind of a bit like that. Oh, Kane scored 2 goals. Oh, yeah, he was going to be my captain, but I didn't.
Although I did say he should have been my captain before he scored the goals. So.
Whereas Quigliano, Wijnaldum puts him in his team. 4 goals later.
We cannot go back. What was that? Game week 7 or something ridiculous
Aguero,
like that?
5 goals. But either way, I back myself, okay? I say it's going to happen.
And I meant to back myself, and I put my hand up, I hold my hand up, and I say, what an error on my part. I cannot believe I did that.
So, regardless of whether we believe Millsy or not, that's up to the listeners, that's their choice. We can still learn from that mistake. Always double check your team prior to that deadline.
I tell you, the problem was, I've had so many requests from premium members asking me to give them their 6-week plan that they're entitled to and just have a look at their team, and I like to stay in dialogue with them. I spent more time looking at other people's teams than my own, which is not an excuse because there is always time to do it.
So why bring it up?
Are we blaming the fans now?
I'm certainly not blaming the fans.
You're turning on the premium
I'm
members.
certainly not turning on the premium members. And
Anarchy.
I'm so glad we're back in the studio.
These guys are getting your daughter a private education, and now you've turned on them.
Well, let's not go that far. But hello to the premium members. Anyway,
shout out.
Let's shout out. Let's move on, gents. Game week 31 is coming around quickly. It's a busy week this week, though, isn't it? With Europa League and Champions League. So that might come into our kind of thinking ahead of these fixtures.
Yeah.
Company's cropped.
I mean, yeah.
Put him in 2 weeks ago, and now he's
out.
He's burning on the fire.
Yeah, you can't trust them for a clean sheet at the moment, particularly without company.
Well, no, not without
you
company. You could with company, but
Yeah,
not
with-
without.
That's what I mean. Sorry, apologies. Yeah, without company.
So we're back. JP's back making mistakes. I like that.
Yeah, it's good to see. Good to see. Some very, very tough fixtures this week as well, in my opinion.
Okay, give me an example of a tough fixture then, JP, this week. One that you're kind of not looking forward to.
Yeah, Arsenal versus Everton.
For who? Who's that a tough fixture for?
Both teams. Very tough. I mean, but most players of fantasy football will have players from both squads. And do you feel they could cancel one another out? Maybe. I'm not sure. It's a tough one.
Okay,
So very vague.
I mean, what does that mean?
Okay. I'm just simply suggesting that it is a tough fixture to predict. Therefore, you might be concerned about which players to play.
Absolutely not, mate. Sanchez is going to light it up, isn't he?
I think Lukaku's nailed on, but we'll come to that later
Okay,
on.
okay.
So, Quigliano, we've done a lot of digressing there. Let's move swiftly on to the Gary of the week. Can we have a better Gary this week, please?
We can do, yeah. I think most people will be jumping on this. I think even you might jump on this one, Mills. We're going Harry Kane captain.
It's already done.
They've got Bournemouth. It's a nice fixture. Gary of the week, Kane. Nothing needs to be explained.
100% agree. Let's move on then. The Xabi.
Long shot. So we had a good one last week with Siggy. Picked up 9. We're going with not actually a good way to avoid pregnancy, but a namesake, Rondon.
Very nice. Very nice.
So yeah, we're going long shot Rondon.
That's an interesting one. West Brom at home to Norwich. You hate Norwich, don't you? You really have
Nothing
a
personal.
bad view of
This is
Norwich
just,
City.
This is just business, mate. It's nothing personal.
Even after they shut out Man City last week. I mean, they really did shut them out in the second half as well.
So I think it's a very different game to that game, though. I mean, Man City is a team that you defend against. They made a decision to sit deep, 2 banks of 4, very classic, and defend a goalless draw, effectively. West Brom is a game that their fans will expect them to actually go and attack, and that's when they look vulnerable. They look very, very vulnerable on the counter-attack.
My only argument against that is I kind of get a little bit nervous at this point in the season when you've got teams like West Brom who their primary focus for the season is to avoid relegation, sitting pretty now on 39 points. Whereas Norwich City are fighting for their lives, and this is a fixture that they will probably have marked down as one that they have to get something from,
Correct.
even if that's just a point.
I'm not. I'm tipping the goal scorer. I'm not saying Albion are going to win. Norwich could go and win 4-3, but I'm saying a long shot. If you fancy a little differential, poke your nose towards Rondon.
I like it.
Okay, I mean,
like it.
coming back to that namesake, but let's go on. So the Delia. Before we do that, I just again at the weekend saw that, I think it was on Sky Sports. I don't know if anyone else saw it. Just that Delia Smith shout out again to the Norwich fans. It just never gets old. It's fantastic.
So, well, in reference to that, where are you? Let's be having you.
Igalo, Igalo, Igalo.
It's been a while.
It's been a blooming long while. Now, he scored in the FA Cup, but he's had a very, very dry spell in the Premier League. Let's get some goals, please.
I think he's not scored in 6. I think
Wow.
he's scored 1 in the last 10 Premier League games, which, yeah, I mean, there was a point where he was putting them in every single week, wasn't there? So,
He was off to Barcelona one week,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Arsenal the next.
and now he's probably looking like he'll be at the Molyneux.
Yeah, so where are you, Igalo? Are you going to answer those cries? And the side tips, Quigliano, which again I think did pretty well last week.
Obviously, mate. Obviously. Going to sort of give a little precursor, and we can all chip in on this, to the double game weeks, okay? Those of you that have been waiting patiently will have checked probably religiously every day. When are these double game weeks going to be rescheduled? Well, game week 34 is littered now with potential fixtures. So anything that you do really for me now has to be geared towards getting players in for that. If you didn't have any composure like myself, you'll have already played your wild card. Therefore, you have got to build a team that is going to have 11 players featuring in those double game weeks. It's how fantasy football is played. Those with more composure will probably play their wild card in game week 33, and then so the week before have 15 players playing, and then use a bench boost and start to reap the rewards of everyone playing. That's sort of how it should have been done. I think the chips are something we need to discuss at some stage to sort of come up with a bit better strategy for next season. So double game week players you need to be looking for, but based on this week as well, you can't ignore Dele Alli. He's doing too well. Spurs, Wimmer and Alderweireld, I think defensively, give you options at a cheap alternative, but not definitely a prolonged starter there with Wimmer, because once Vertonghen's back, he'll probably take his place. He's called him before Wijnaldum. double game week player, somebody going in with Rafa behind him, a bit more organisation at the back, might give him that freedom to start scoring again. Lukaku, Mills has already referenced, another double game week player you're probably going to want to invest in. Firmino, Sigurdsson we've talked about, Arnautovic. These are Arnautovic isn't a double game week, but he's somebody that we think will do well sort of over this game week. So there's your side tips as well.
Okay, I really
a lot of information there.
A lot of information, but I really like those. There's nothing I really go against. JP, your thoughts?
Yeah, good list. I also really like the idea actually of that game week 34 bench boost. I mean, that is a good idea. If you can build a team now and get 4 good players on the bench that are going to play, it's a really intelligent idea actually. So very, very impressed with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you got that available to you?
No.
Thank God.
So
Thank God.
with that in mind, if you bench boost, so if you have got bench boost and triple captain available, bench boost is possibly the one to go for in this big double game week. Is that what we're saying? Because you're going to get the benefit of more double game week players. That then kind of leaves you one other double game week at the moment, which is going to be Liverpool and Everton. So you'd kind of be looking at someone like Lukaku or Firmino possibly in the second double game week that's to come.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem that I've made, and this is definitely something to learn from towards next season, was becoming obsessed with triple captain for a double game week. Not realising that bench boost is actually vital on that double game week because you can fill all positions. And that's something that's dawned upon me recently, and then I'm like, why did I not show a bit more composure? However, I will also say we play a month-to-month game where we get manager of the month and there's financial reward for that. So to win a month is kind of just as good as winning the league because it sort of covers your bets. Mills, I don't like to rub that in your face because I know you've never won a manager of the month, but that is why some players within our little mini league have had to use those chips to try and make sure they win the month.
I mean, that is a very low, cheap blow.
I beg your pardon. What are you reviewing? What are those numbers from the telephone box?
We're not talking
about
Rondon anymore.
That was a cheap shot. I mean, we are in a very, very competitive league.
No.
Well, there's 3 people around this microphone. 2 have won manager of the month. One has actually won the season, so fair play.
Okay, we're gonna go to a short break. We're gonna be back after this, and we're gonna look at the fantasyfootballtips.co league, see who's up at the top there, who's in line to win the £100, and we're also going to go to some questions from the fans. Back straight after this.
You are listening to Mills and Quigliano on the fantasyfootballtips.co podcast. Sponsored by Premier Punt. All your fantasy Premier League tips in one juicy little podcast. Get in touch at www.fantasyfootballtips.co.
Okay, so we're back. Quigliano, I'm just about recovering from that low blow.
Well, is that where you've been? You've nipped out for 10-15 minutes there. I mean,
that was a 5-second break.
No, I would say 5 minutes.
Yeah, at least. You left the room as well.
Okay.
Well, move on, mate. It's a family show again.
Let's take a look at the Fantasy Football Tips League.
You've pressed pick team there, mate. You're going to need to press leagues.
Okay, so we're just logging into Fantasy Premier League. Right, we've got someone new in there this week. Hakuna Matata has dropped down to 3rd. Right in Debussy, Sam Porter. If you're listening, maybe drop us a tweet at FPL_the source. Send us an email in at support@fantasyfootballtips.co.
Talk to us and we'll talk to you.
Just very quick look at his team. Quigliano, I want you to look at his team. You've not seen this before. Sum that up in 3 words.
Very decent.
Didn't even need the 3rd word. JP.
It is very good.
3 words.
Oh, very good. Sorry.
No, he's got all the key players in there. Very similar. There's going to be teams that are literally identical to that. So, provided that kicks on, he could win the league. I think there's a lot more up for grabs.
Maybe Arnautovic is a player that isn't maybe in quite so many teams, possibly.
Or Otamendi, interesting.
Well, he's picked up a knock as well.
That surprised me.
Okay, so we're going to go over to the questions from the fans, and I've got one from friend of the show, Jack Keller, and he wants to know if there was one player who you weren't going to pick if there was one player that is not in a double game week that should be in your team, who would it be?
One player.
So one player who doesn't have a double game week in 34. So in other words, should there be a player that you should have who isn't playing a double game week in 34?
Well, I'm going to find it really, really hard to drop Jamie Vardy. The man's a goal machine. Okay, slightly drier spell recently, although an assist yet again. He's only got one game that week. I personally am going to find it difficult to drop him. He probably will be in my team. So there's mine.
Yeah, I'll be more ruthless than that. To me, this is everything, this double game week. So I will be ruthless in the fact that if it's Jamie Vardy, he goes. The only one I think is Harry Kane. I've had him since he really started scoring. I got in on that hat-trick before anyone else did, and his price has skyrocketed, so I probably wouldn't be able to afford him. And with Spurs going for the league, I won't be dropping any Spurs players.
Okay, thank you. I'm not so sure on Harry Kane, I will say. I think they've got some tough fixtures coming up. He's fantastic at the moment. But that does lead us on to another question. This is from Harry Fraser, again emailed in, and he wants to know, who are the top 3 strikers to have between now and the end of the season?
You've caught me off guard in terms of knowing the fixtures. To me, some of these players go beyond fixtures. Okay, so Aguero, it doesn't matter whether they're playing, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, he has to be in your squad. I also feel a bit the same about Harry Kane. I think if you're looking for someone else, and we're looking at double game weeks, I would probably be looking at Lukaku. Consistent performer. He's going to be their main threat. I'd be going.
They're your 3.
They're my 3. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm very similar. I would say Kane, Aguero are absolute 100% musts, and I would say it's a very close toss-up between Lukaku and Vardy. But I'd probably be tempted to edge with Quigliano over Lukaku due to a double game week. So it's tough between those 2.
Okay, thank you, JP. Just before we head into Podcast Extra, any ideas why there was a little wink between me and Quigliano in that last sentence of yours?
Friendship? I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, I don't know.
Plans for the week, JP? Have you, anything nice planned for you this week?
Plans for this week?
You've certainly caught you off guard there,
other than the
haven't I?
podcast, which is one of my biggest plans.
Highlight.
I'm just listening to it, replaying it over and over
Listen,
again.
be involved, then listen, analyse, reassess.
How many times do you listen to the podcast?
It varies. At least 7.
Okay.
Is that an honest answer?
No. That was a lie.
It's 10, isn't it?
It's 12.
Okay.
Because we've got 12 listeners, so we're
Yeah.
thinking that's all from them.
Right, so gents, it's been an absolute pleasure this week. We're going to go into Podcast Extra where we're going to be talking our personal captain choices, if there's any point for me doing that, really.
Yeah, you've laid it all on the lines already.
I have, but and after last week as well, I'm still kind of reading from that. If you're not a premium member and you want to listen to the podcast, join literally hundreds of other people that are doing that. fantasyfootballtips.co/register, and you can sign up there.
Good plug.
Quigliano, after the way you slated me at the start of the show, I think I'm going to ask you to deliver the intro to the next week's show.
Yeah, okay, absolutely.
Happy to do that?
Yeah.
So if you do listen in next week and there's someone stuttering and maybe sneezing over the first few words, please don't switch off. It's just Quigliano doing the intro.
No stuttering and no sneezing. Right, that's all I've got to avoid to make sure Mills was wrong there. Okay, noted.
Think you can do that?
Well, I'm hoping I can not have a sneeze. The stutter maker is my only really concern.
Okay, we'll be back straight after this with Podcast Extra.
Warning, 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 warning. 3, 2, 1. The fantasyfootballtips.co podcast with Mills and Quigliano.